Hey guys, what's up? My name is Anthony, and welcome to another edition of B&A Sports Talk. Now, before the season, I said the Houston Texans would go 5-11, and I haven't really loved the Houston Texans because I don't really think their plan is sustainable, and they impressed me this year. I gotta say that. They would have been 11-5, I think, if they would have played hard in that Tennessee game. They started their backup quarterback, and they weren't trying to win, but they won a playoff game as well. They ended up beating a team with a quarterback named Connor Cook or something like that, whoever the Raiders rolled out a couple years ago. And they were pretty successful. And ever since the Texans drafted Deshaun Watson, when he's been healthy, they played well. But I don't think this is long-term sustainable. And I think the Houston Texans should move off of Bill O'Brien. And let me tell you why. So first of all, Bill O'Brien is no Bill Belichick, and he's trying to be like Bill Belichick. And we've seen that a couple of times with the rehashes of Bill Belichick's disciples, with Matt Patricia, 9 and whatever. He only won 9 games in his first 2 years as head coach of the Detroit Lions. And then we've also seen Josh McDaniels, those sort of guys. And being the general manager and head coach of the same team isn't really sustainable. And even Bill Belichick, I think, has struggled with being in this sort of position because you have to worry about so many things. You have to worry about who you're drafting. You have to worry about little intricacies here and there, the timeouts, the everything. And we saw that with the Chiefs. They were up 24-0, 4th and 1, didn't know what call he was, what play he was going to call. And, with trading, you have teams that take advantage over you. You know what? You didn't really draft well, and we're gonna give you our left tackle that we don't want and a wide receiver, and we're gonna get 2 first-round picks out of you. And the Houston Texans bit. And when you have to control personnel, every single little thing, you have to be elite. Now, Bill O'Brien has made the playoffs, I believe, 3 times in the 6 years he's coached since 2014. And he's won 2 playoff games. He's lost 4. And overall in his stint with the Houston Texans, he's a little bit above 500. So he's not a horrible coach. But ever since he's gotten Deshaun Watson, he's been coaching better. Kind of like Pete Carroll. And now all of a sudden people think he's a good head coach. But let me tell you something, he's not. I think Pete Carroll is a way better coach than Bill O'Brien. And Bill O'Brien has lost trades. With the Kenny Stills and Laramie Tunsil thing, you got the left tackle that Miami Dolphins didn't want. Now you don't have a first-round pick for the next 2 years. You're not going to have a first-round pick 3 out of 4 years. You gave up your one last year, and you're going to give up your one for the next 2 years. Justin Reed was their first pick a couple years ago. He was successful. He got drafted in 2018 at strong safety, and he's shown some flashes. But in 2017, let's look at the players that they drafted behind Deshaun Watson. And, it looks good because they did draft Deshaun Watson. It looks like a great draft class. Zachary Cunningham, he's been pretty good. He's been pretty good for them, like a 60 or so PFF grade. Dante Foreman, not playing for them. Julian Davenport, he's actually playing for Miami. Carlos Watkins, defensive tackle. He's only played in 26 games in his first 3 years out of Clemson. And Kyle Fuller, he's not in the league anymore. So in 2017, they weren't really that successful in drafts. As we all know, they build teams. 2018, Justin Reed, you drafted him at the 68th overall pick, so that's a 3rd round. Martinez Rankins, tackle, he's not really playing that good. Kiki Coty, wide receiver, that's great, but the one strength you have in your team is wide receiver. You can get it to your wide receivers, but you don't have any strong, left tackles, guards, and stuff like that. Then you have Duke Ejiofor, he's out of the league. Jordan Thomas, he's a tight end who's, a gadget guy. He's not really been that successful. And now let's go to 2019. Titus Howard. Little intricacies. The Philadelphia Eagles jumped up and you got to settle for a guy that you didn't want. They both about played the same this season. Lonnie Johnson. He pretty much almost blew the game against the Bills. And all he did, what he's known for, is blocking a punt against recovering the blocked punt against the Kansas City Chiefs in a game that they lost. And he hasn't been overly impressive. In fact, he had a worse PFF grade than DeAndre Baker did this year. Max Sharping, he got moved to left guard. He's pretty successful. And one thing I got to say is, it looks like they're gradually solving their offensive line problems. If they can really get gritty with their offensive line, they can improve there and stay healthy. I think they could potentially mask their problems here. But as far as defense, they haven't really been that successful here. As far as, they've drafted a gadget guy, Charles Omenihu, this year, who's been a pretty good gadget guy, but as far as defense, they haven't been overly impressive. Jadeveon Clowney, they ended up trading in the offseason for peanuts. and now he's on the Seattle Seahawks. And he was a guy that complimented Whitney Merciless and J.J. Watt, and now you don't have him anymore. And their defense this year, 28th in yards, 26th in first downs, passing 29th. They have a guy Conley in the backfield. They lost Tyrann Mathieu a couple years ago. And all across the board, they ranked lowest in defensive ranks. The only thing they ranked pretty high in is turnovers, where they're ranked 15th in the league. But eventually, I think this is going to catch up to them. Again, in a division with the Colts, who have been down for a couple years now, especially before Andrew Luck's injury, now after Andrew Luck is out of the league. You also have the Jaguars, who don't know what they're doing anymore. And then you have the Titans, who, they've been 9-7, 9-7, 9-7, so they haven't been amazing. So they've been able to take control of this division, but I think they should try to make a huge step in a direction this year that's going to set their franchise forward. They can't settle for mediocrity anymore. You have a couple of coaching hires that I've listed here. You have Jason Garrett, who's the offensive coordinator right now for the Giants, but I think if he does well this year, he's going to be looking for a head coaching job. And let me tell you, being in Texas, right next to Dallas, well, I'm not sure how far Houston is from Dallas. I think it's like 3 hours, but that'll be a cool in-state rivalry there. He could potentially want to go there. There are a couple of coaches this year that can get fired, like a Zach Taylor, like an Anthony Lynn, like a Doug Marrone, who I don't think will be prime candidates. But there are guys like that. The main thing you got to do now is hire a general manager who's competent. I know Nick Caserio they tried to hire last year, but there was some tampering stuff that I don't fully understand. They have been an inept franchise. They have been a little bit crazy over here. They did beat the Colts this year. The Colts are a really buttoned-up franchise, do all the things right. Houston Texans seem like they're a franchise that don't do things right. But eventually, in the long term, I believe the team that drafts well and has good general management is going to work out in this league. And we're going to see in a couple years, Houston Texans, things aren't going to work out. And it's because of their drafting. It's because of their drafting. And they've tried to mask some things briefly. But again, next 2 years, you're not going to have a first-round draft pick. And let me tell you, once you have to pay Deshaun Watson $33 million a year, and you don't have a lot of draft depth talent, kind of like the Seattle had, you're going to begin to struggle real bad. You're going to begin to struggle real bad. And this is not the NFC West where it's really challenging. This is the AFC South where it's not as challenging. So you may get a little bit lucky here. The Seattle Seahawks have done better in a really tough division than this Houston Texans team has done in this pretty weak division. And yeah, so other coaching hires they can potentially get, there aren't too many. You could say Bill Belichick may want to look to get out of New England if Tom Brady stays there, but I don't believe that's going to happen. But there's going to be some young coaching talent that's going to be able to work with Deshaun Watson, and we're going to start listing those names. So I think that after this year, you're going to have to get rid of Bill O'Brien. It's the Jason Garrett effect. We don't want mediocrity anymore. Unlike Dallas, you don't have a Jerry Jones there that's overseeing everything. You have an owner that's fairly quiet, and he could just do things well. I think it's a really attractive job for any GM. You have a competent quarterback, and you have some wide receiver talent like DeAndre Hopkins on this team that's going to be able to play well for years to come. They have really strong tight end talent, I believe. Yeah, the Houston Texans are in a fairly good spot as far as, if a coach coming in and wanting to make this team successful. We've seen Matt Rule go to the Carolina Panthers, who are far less attractive in my view. And you're going to have a coach that'll be like, okay, I'm going to set up my coaching staff. And we already seen the first steps. They got a new defensive coordinator. They fired Cornell. And yeah, so the Houston Texans, they have a long way to go forward, but they have that piece in Deshaun Watson. They're trying to get healthy on the offensive line. That's a main thing for them this season, but they're not close. They lost to the Kansas City Chiefs. They let up 51 points in the matter of 40 minutes. And that's not a sign of a team that's going to be able to compete. We saw it happen with the Giants this year. We were close in some games, and then we played the Dallas Cowboys, our rivals, and it just looked like two different types of teams on that field. And yeah, I think the Houston Texans are going to realize that fairly soon. And they need to. They need to have a little wake-up call to realize what they're doing is they're not going the right direction. But hope you guys enjoy this video. Let me know what you guys think. It's your time to speak. I've been talking for about 10 minutes now. Let me know what you guys think the Houston Texans should do at coach, whether they should fire Bill O'Brien or not. What they should do with Deshaun Watson, sign him, trade him. No, they're going to sign him. That's an obvious thing. But hope you guys enjoy this video, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye, guys.